Naram Chavanarottam Devim Sarasatyam Vyasam Tito Jayodhire. Nashtaparesho Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Utamashoki Bhaktir Bhavti Naistiki. Nigamaka Padurgaritam Padam Shukam Karam
Nityam Bhagavata
Tagritam
Sevya
Bhagavati
Bhagavati
Utamatam
Utamashoki.
Rashamarayam Mahora Horishika Bhubhi Bhagam. Krishna Swadam Bhagate Damagini Yeshaha Karunashta Dvishamasha Parano Kodinoditam. Twamapiyada Vishuta Vishutam Vibhu Samapyena Viram Viruksiram Prakyahidaho Mohoradam Sankleshana Musanti Nanyataham. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chavanottamam Devim Sarasatyam Vyasam Tito Jayodhire. Nashta Preshu Padreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Uttamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Nigamakaparurgaritam Param Shukamakaramita Dravisamitam Pivata Bhagatam Rashamarayam Mahora Hori Sikabhuvi Babakam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Jayatam Sarato Pango Mama Mandara Matergati Matsava Shapanam Boja Radhana Madana Mohano Siman Rasarambi Vamsi Vada Karsten Benushan Upaga Gopanada Sri Sarha Divyad Vrindarani Kampadrumada Srimad Ratnagada Simashanishtam Sri Sri Radha Shila Govada Prastadabihi Seva Manashmanami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Cha Jigadiyataya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalang Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudurabjajam Mangalam Panadikaksho Manganaya Tanohari Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Padni Cha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Sare Sari Hari Priya Namastubhyam Namastubhyam Dayadine Tapti Kanjana Gaurangir Hari Vindavaneshwari Vishavanasite Devi Pranamani Hari Priya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Welcome to Transcendental Tuesday. Yesterday we entitled the talk Krishna is in hiding, but we didn't really get to that theme. Our preface was so long it became a different theme altogether. So we're going to have another run at this title, Krishna is in hiding. In this 10th verse, 3rd chapter, 8th canto, Gajendra, the elephant king, whose leg has been latched onto by a crocodile and who, over a course of 1,000 years of struggling, tugging of war, he's been pulled into the depths of the lake. And it's been a protracted, prolonged struggle. It's his misery level has been progressively ratcheted up from a 1 to a 2 to a 3 to a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to a 7 to an 8 to a 9 to a 10. He's been more and more he's been recalling the more that his own strength runs like sand out of the hourglass, the more his own strength becomes replaced by a helpless sense of reaching out to the Lord. It said that when you reach the end of your strength and you call out to the Lord, that's when you reach the beginning of his strength. That's the good news. That's how we can go the extra mile. That's how we can accomplish things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to accomplish on ourselves. So in all of this, Gajendra has been transferring his faith to the Lord from relying upon his own elephantine power. He's transferring his faith to the Lord. He's saying, Lord Krishna, I'm over my head here. You fight my battles. He's been doing this for a long time. And he's been feeling like, for instance, if you call 911 and you tell the dispatcher, I'm in trouble here. There's someone in the house. So, you expect that within 5 or 10 minutes, you'll hear the sirens, you'll see the flashing lights, the car doors slamming, and the pitter patter of police running your direction, if necessary, prepared to smash the door down and save you in the nick of danger. if you've called 911 and 20 minutes have gone by, 30 minutes have gone by, 45 minutes, and some or other you're managing to, you're running through all the rooms like in one of these Halloween horror shows, and he's right behind you, and he's in the Halloween horror shows, the evil Michael or Freddy is some or other really awkward. This 16-year-old girl manages to trip him up, push him downstairs, throw him through a window, but he always keeps coming. He gets up and he keeps coming. So let's say this goes on for 45 minutes. After a while, you're thinking, like, where in the heck? What's the use of dialing 911 if it's 45 minutes if they don't take this seriously? So Gajendra, he's tried, heartfelt, sincere, straightforward pleading, but now he's thinking about Krishna and the gopis, and he's thinking about how the gopis lamented for years and years and years. Krishna left Vrindavan to go to Mathura, kill Kamsa. Then it was dominoes. After Kamsa, then Jarasandha came. While Jarasandha was coming at him, Kalyavana came, then Sisupal, Dantavakra, Dhanukashora. One after another, Krishna never got back to Vrindavan. He told the gopis he was just going to be gone for a day or two to take care of some business, and then he would be back. But once he killed Kamsa, then Kamsa's son-in-law, Jarasandha, had a grudge against Krishna. And then once he killed Jarasandha, then it was just entangling. There were more and more kings that came at Krishna, and Krishna didn't want to bring that to Vrindavan. He didn't want to bring that strife, that danger. He wanted to keep Vrindavan pristine and serene and beautiful and calm. That's the duty of those who are martial artists, the warriors, the military. They're meant to ensure that people live their lives peacefully, no matter how much strife is going on around them. But think of the gopis, they said Krishna said he'd be back in a day or two. So I guess we can live. I guess we can take that. Well, one day went by, 2 days went by, a week, and then they might have been able to rationalize themselves. Yeah, well, there were a couple other demons. It was, uh, and he hasn't seen his real mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, for 16 years. He must be doing a little catching up, but he'll be back. And Krishna wanted to come back. Krishna wanted to come. He wanted nothing more in the world to come back. But in a roundabout way, he had to stay away to protect the inhabitants of Vrindavan. The expression of Krishna's love for them was that he never came back because he was always protecting them, throwing up that shield around Vrindavan. He didn't even want to stay in Dwarka Mathura, because Mathura is too close to Vrindavan. After both Kalyavana and Jarasandha attacked Mathura 17 times, each time with an army of 1 million soldiers. And the last time he attacked, Kalyavana had also surrounded Mathura with another army. But this was just too close for comfort. Therefore, Krishna abdicated Mathura altogether, established Ugrasena back in the throne of the Bhojas and the Yadus, and Krishna built his city at the end of the Western Peninsula there in Gujarat. He built his Dwarka city. Now imagine the gopis. Krishna said he'd be back in 2 days. And it's been 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. The gopis just lay around as if they were on the last stage of their life. You'd have to put a cotton swab in front of their noses to know if they were still alive. And all they want to do is forget Krishna. They were in their ecstasy of separation. Now, someone might say, why would you go to all this trouble? If you want to be happy, it seems like worshiping Krishna, falling in love with Krishna, be the last thing you want to do. But if you read the Nectar Devotion, the commentaries of all the great saints and sages, you'll realize that the greatest heartbreak, the most heartbroken condition, the greatest devastation of separation from Krishna is millions of times more ecstatic than the highest material happiness. Krishna from an arcane esoteric point of view, Krishna separates from the gopis in order to increase their ocean of transcendental happiness. And they're in these paroxysms. Why did I ever want to meet Krishna in the first place? All he ever did was steal my heart, spoil me for any other boy, spoil me for marrying every other person, spoil me for loving kids. All my love. Kunti says, my love flows for you. I can't stop it. Can anyone stop the rush of the Ganges? Thousands and thousands of tons of water going downhill, following the law of gravity from the Himalayan peaks to the Bay of Bengal. Is there anyone that can stand in the middle of that stream and hold up their arms and stop it? It's unstoppable. It's uninterrupted. The gopis tried to forget Krishna, but they couldn't. They were still seeing him everywhere. They were talking to the swans, to the bumblebees, to the deer, to the butterflies. And in all of this accusatory love exchange, verbal love exchange, the word Paramatma came up in two connections. Paramatma is the Lord within the heart. He has three features. Vedanti tat tatvam yasira pramiti paramatmiti bhagavaniti sabdyate. The first feature is this impersonal effulgence. Just like you look at the temple picture behind me, this is a picture taken, I don't know whether it's sunrise, it must be sunset because it's on the western side. So imagine for the purposes of our example that this is sunrise. So you see that the sun glow appears before the sun itself, before you see that circular orb coming up from the Wasatch Mountains. The sky lightens. It becomes less dark, it lightens and lightens, and then the whole sky is lit up, but you still can't see the sun. That's, in analogous terms, that's Krishna's Brahman effulgence. That's the effulgence that comes from Krishna. Dazzling, brilliant effulgence, but it's impersonal. And then his second feature is like the sun globe. You see the sun globe in due course of time emerging from the eastern horizon. So the sunshine has a source. It has a localized source, which is the sunshine. That localized source, which is the sun globe. That sun globe is compared to the Paramatma. There's consciousness which pervades our entire body, spreads from the top of our head to the tip of our toes. And we can feel, we can sense, we can taste, we can touch, we can smell by virtue of consciousness. That consciousness is coming from the soul in the heart. And the soul is the local, and besides the soul is the Paramatma, the super soul. Now, the super soul stays in the heart. The super soul doesn't come out. Krishna may appear before you in his Bhagavan feature, in his supreme personal feature. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But the Paramatma doesn't come out. Paramatma stays in hiding. Even if you're in a fire, Paramatma doesn't come out. If you're drowning, Paramatma doesn't come out. Gajendra's drowning, literally. He's being pulled further and further into the deeper and the deeper and the deeper and the deeper and the deeper water. So drowning is imminent. For crocodiles, actually, that's how they kill their prey. They drown them, they pull them down and hold them down until they're no longer able to get oxygen, they suffocate. So Gajendra's being pulled down, the water's getting deeper, his resistance is getting less and less and less. And he's crying out to Krishna, he says, and then now he's saying, oh, I forgot. There's so many people throughout history that have drowned. And as Paramatma, you never came out. There's so many people that have burned in fires. And as Paramatma, you stayed right inside and you burned with them. Not that the super soul, the soul can actually burn, but the bodies have burned, and this Paramatma has not come out. He always just stays there. So Gajendra is saying, oh, here I am calling out to you, reciting all these prayers, sharing my misery for you, in expectation of you coming from within to appear outside and save me from the crocodile. But now I'm remembering that you don't do that. The characteristics of Paramatma is that even if you're drowning, even if you're in fire, Paramatma remains as a silent spectator. His main job is witnessing, noting down. If you turn to him, he'll give you the knowledge by which you can extricate yourself from the material world. But in times of crisis, which mostly we've gotten ourselves into ourselves by our poor decisions, times of crisis, the living being has to take responsibility for the reactions to previous decisions one's made. Paramatma doesn't interfere with the unrolling, the unraveling of one's karma. So even burning in fire, even drowning in an ocean, the Paramatma stays hidden. He doesn't come out. The gopis said in their prayers, we are burning. We're burning the fire of separation. Krishna, you said you'd come back in a day or two, and now it's been 20 years. We're burning. And you still, I mean, no matter how much we suffer, no matter how much we yearn for you, you still don't come. Why did we even want to meet you in the first place? Our lives have been miserable since the day we met you, and that misery, again, note that misery is greater than the greatest material happiness. Not only burning in the fire of, some people are either in the material world, you're either burning or you're drowning, but you can't burn and drown at the same time because water puts out fire. So if you're burning and fire comes, then you'll no longer be burning. You might be drowning, but you're no longer burning. But the gopis, they were burning and drowning at the same time. They were burning in the fire separation, and they were drowning in the ocean of lamentation. Why, oh why, oh why did I ever even know Krishna in the first place? I was warned about Krishna by my girlfriends, by my parents, by my elders. They told me, don't go there. He'll steal your heart and leave you. He'll use you and then he'll toss you away, which actually is not what Krishna did at all. Um, uh, Gopis are saying, we fell in love with you. We gave our hearts to you in such a way that we were never able to that extent to give our hearts to our husbands and our children. The whole Vedic culture is based on fidelity, chastity. You're married. There's no question of divorce. You ride out, you overlook faults on the part of your spouse. You make the marriage work. You do what you have to do. You build your character in the institution of marriage. This is the whole foundation of the ancient, very, very high-minded culture of India. And the Gopi said, you spoiled us, for you made us like spoiled women. What good is a woman who's given her heart to another man? How good a wife can she be? How good a daughter can she be? How good a mother can she be when she's given her heart to another man? So Krishna, we are not only burning in the fire of separation, but we're drowning in the ocean of lamentation. Now, if you're burning, your life is at risk. If you're drowning, your life is at risk. The gopis are saying we're burning and drowning. Honestly, we don't know how it is that we're still alive. How it is that we must be on some level just crassly, grossly, materially attached. Because how can the frames of our body and our minds take all of this pinching from the fire and suffocation from the drowning? And still, how is it that not having seen Krishna for 10, 15, 20 years, we're still alive? We must be so low-minded that we're holding on to these material bodies like that. And as far as Krishna is concerned, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Of course, Krishna cares very much. And there's nothing Krishna would like better than to come to Vrindavan. In fact, he is in Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan because he says, Naham Tishnani Vaikunde Yogi Amitu. Yata Gayatri Madbhakta. Krishna tells Narada Muni, I am not in the kingdom of God. I'm not in the hearts of the yogis, but I am wherever two or three are gathered and singing my glories. Krishna actually, in the highest, most mystical sense, Krishna was never apart from the gopis. He was present before them more intensely because of their mood of separation than he would have been if he had been personally present. Familiarity breeds contempt. Krishna never left the queens of Dwarka. Once he went to Dwarka, built his city, then he had to act as a king in order to head up armies and keep the forces of darkness from entering into Vrindavan. So in that role as a king, he never left his wives. His wives began to think of him as a hen-pecked husband. And there's always that little hint of contempt that comes when you see someone day after day after day after day. You tend to think that they can't do without you. And yet the lesson that Krishna gave to the gopis is you can do without me. And in that mood of being without me, of lamentation and of drowning, of burning and drowning, Krishna says, because I am within your hearts, I am within atoms, you will feel my presence even more intensely. But otherwise, Paramatma hides. He doesn't come out. Second feature, why the gopis and Gajendra in common call Krishna Paramatma, is that he can see us. He sees and knows everything about us, every detail, every hair in our head, he knows. But we can't see him. He's hiding from us. Similarly, the gopis had this feeling throughout all of their recriminations and their accusatory statements about Krishna having left them and not coming back. They had this really, really strong feeling that Krishna was there. It was just that he was around the next corner, behind a tree, over the hill. They had this really, really, they had a stronger Christian feeling that Krishna was there than they did than when Krishna was there. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't, because it's mystical. It's transcendental. The gopis, you know, they 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 had a strong feeling that though they couldn't see Krishna, Krishna could see them. Krishna was watching them. He was empathizing with them. He was suffering right along with them. So both the gopis and the Gajendra are praying along parallel paths. And why are they doing this? Why are they accusing Krishna of letting them suffer and staying hidden? On top of that, they're saying, you see the suffering, you see it, you see the intensity of the suffering. And it's not just like you just arrived on the scene and said, oh my God, I didn't know this was going on. It's not just like you just arrived on the scene. You've been in my heart since the beginning. So you know that this suffering has gone on far too long. You know the intensity of the suffering, and you know the duration of the suffering, and you know that no one should be asked to endure suffering this long. So in this way, accusing Krishna, but in all of that, both the gopis and the Gajendra know that Krishna's heart melts for his devotees. Krishna, at the end of the day, whatever rules may be in effect for all others, for those who put God first place by chanting his holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna will break the rules. Krishna will break his own promises for his devotees. Gajendra knows this because Krishna did it in the past. Think of the story of Dhruva. Let me tell you about a young prince named Dhruva. At 5 years old, he was scorned. He was full of ambition and fire, seeking his father's throne, his ultimate desire. His stepmother, Saruchi, so cold, her words cut like a knife. Only my son deserves a royal life. Take your next birth from my womb, and then maybe you'll be worth the throne. Though tears blinded his sight, deep down inside, his heart ignited in a blazing light. He appealed to his mother Suniti, a guiding star. She said, "Seek Vishnu, he won't be far." Dhruva went into the forest all alone, his resolve stronger than stone. For 6 months, his meditation was unbreakable, his will was unshakable. The sage Narada saw the boy's true might, taught him a mantra that bathed him in a divine light. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now here's the key. Lord Vishnu appeared. You see here? Paramat was making an exception in the case of Dhruva. Lord Vishnu appeared, a vision so grand, he touched the boy's head with his hand till his senses expanded. The Lord said, "Because you've worshipped me without offenses and pretenses, your wish is granted. Greater than your father's kingdom, over a kingdom greater than your father's, you shall reign, the North Star shining brightly above this world of pain. Dhruva, the pole star, a symbol above unwavering faith and boundless love. His story echoes a lesson so clear: when darkness surrounds, conquer your fears. So when you feel small, like your dreams are denied, just remember young Dhruva and let your light be your guide. Focus your heart, let your ambition take flight. You too can rise up and become a shining light. Dhruva the legend, his name still inspires, a testimony to faith that fuels our inner fires. Let's raise our voices and sing his praises as one. Dhruva's journey reminds us victory can be won. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Gajendra is reminding the Lord that he had broken his hiding rule for Dhruva. Dhruva had closed his eyes and he'd meditate on the Lord within the heart. And then the Lord disappeared from the vision of Dhruva. He was turning inward, and with his spiritual eye, he was seeing the Lord in the heart. And then the Lord disappeared. He wasn't seeing him anymore. And Dhruva was shocked. Krishna is no longer in my heart. Where does that leave me? Krishna is the soul of my soul. I don't see him in there anymore. So what am I, dead? Or oh, he opened his eye, and there, standing before him, was this supreme personality, Paramatma. He'd seen him within, and then from within, the Paramatma disappeared, and Dhruva opened his eyes, and then he saw the Paramatma standing beside him. Lord Vishnu appeared, a vision so grand, he touched the boy's head with his hand till expenses expanded. Lord Vishnu touched the 5-year-old boy Dhruva's head with his conch shell, and at that point, his senses expanded. It was as if he'd been dead man walking, as if up to that point in time he'd been sleepwalking, because his seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, feeling, they all expanded. They became millions and millions times more intense. And when you become liberated, you take on some of the qualities of Krishna himself. So many of the senses become interchangeable. You know, there are many verses that talk about drinking the sounds of Krishna's praise, drinking the sounds of Krishna, or smelling the aroma of the prayers. When one becomes liberated, the senses are no longer differentiated. There's an overwhelmingly powerful and ecstatic integration of all the senses, where they all feel. Now you feel one sense. If touch is intense, the others take a back seat. If you're seeing something intense, the others take a back seat. They say blind people can hear better. Blind people can hear better. Deaf people can see better. Well, in the liberated state, all your senses reach their maximum capacity to the point that you can actually taste. You can smell words. You can drink with your ears. Uh, uh, and this is what happened with Dhruva. His senses expanded. And that 5-year-old boy who in front of Vishnu, when he saw Vishnu, oh my God, This was so extraordinary. Paramatma is famous. Paramatma has a reputation to uphold, that the Paramatma is always in hiding, is always in the heart. He never reveals himself externally, but he made an exception for his devotee. Krishna has a history of breaking his word for his devotees. You know that Krishna promised on the Kurukshetra warfield he would never take up a weapon. And yet when Bhisma pressed Arjuna, when Bhisma pressed Krishna's devotee Arjuna to the point where Arjuna was going to lose his life, Krishna broke his promise to save his devotees. Picked up a chariot wheel and he ran it. Bhisma took the pressure off of Arjuna, he saved his life. Bringing ignominy on himself. Critics would say, oh, Krishna promised, and look at him. You can't trust Krishna. He's not as good as his word. He's a low-class man who says one thing and does another thing. Critics can say that. But Krishna is very consistent in terms of always protecting his devotees. His devotee. He will support, he will open himself up for criticism. He will open himself up to be called a liar, a prevaricator, if it means saving his devotee as he did with Arjuna. So there are exceptions. And Gajendra is saying to the Lord, I know. It's not that you've never done this. I know that you've done it for your devotees. So you're in my heart. You know that I'm calling out to you with, I've given up all material potential. I don't want even to live anymore. I don't want you to save this body necessarily. I just want to see you. I just want to walk with you again, Lord, after so long. Another example where the Lord appeared externally is that of Madhavendra Puri, a more contemporary example. This occurred just barely 500 years ago in the case of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri came to a little town in Orissa, and he went to sleep in the public square. And he'd been traveling a long way, and he came to this little town, Ramuna, where the town is famous because there was a certain recipe that the priests followed in making kheer. They make sweet rice, which is milk cooked down and sweetened with rice, and a little camphor and some cardamom. The priests in this little temple in the jungles of Orissa were famous for having made this particularly tasty sweet rice for many, many, probably hundreds of years. And Madhavendra Puri came to that town wishing to taste the prasadam after it had been offered to the deity, Krishna Gopalji deity. Madhavendra's intention was to taste it, but he arrived too late. The offering had, the arti had been made, the offering had been made, there were so many pots, the pots had been all distributed to the devotees. Everyone came up and got a little sweet, and it was gone. It came too late. The temple was closed, and so he just went to sleep in the public square there. The rats, well, I guess I missed it. Maybe tomorrow. In the early morning hours, even before the first ceremony, even before Mangalarti, he heard his name being called. He'd never been to Ramuna before. Nobody knew him there, and yet he heard his name being called. How is this? How is this? And he said, you know, I'm Madhavendra Puri. And the person calling his name was a priest from the temple, and he was carrying a pot of sweet rice. Madhavendra Puri, how is this? The arti was last night. You distributed all the sweet rice. How is it that there's another pot? The priest said, it's bad. I don't understand it either. We did the arti. There were 12 pots of sweet rice. We thought we distributed all 12. We counted. We did them all. The arti finished. I went to sleep, and then Krishna appeared to me in a dream and said, you need to get this pot of sweet rice and give it to Madhavendra Puri, my devotee, sleeping in the square, and he got into town too late. for the arti. And the priest said, but there is no pot. We distribute all the pots. And the deity in his dream said to the priest, yes, there is. I stole one of the 12 pots and I hid it in the deity room. And he told the priest where it was. And so the priest looked where the deity told him and he found a pot. And then the deity told him, go, and there's a sadhu sleeping all by himself in the public square. Call him and give him the pot. So he gave him the pot. And it's important to mention in all this, Madhavendra Puri's tongue wasn't hankering after the taste of the sweet rice. He had his own deity. He had his own Gopal deity back in Vrindavan, or he wished to have it in the future. And he just wanted to know the taste of it, how to make it, so he could satisfy his deity like that. So here's a case where the deity is hidden in the deity, hidden in the heart. But he came into the dream of the Pujari, and he also came into the dream of Madhavendra Puri to tell him later on where his form of Srinathji, Gopalji, had been buried. During the rule of Aurangzeb, many temples were smashed and deities were desecrated. And so people took the deities and hid them and buried them. And Aurangzeb ruled a long time, and his successors weren't necessarily better. So sometimes several generations went by, and the deities, people forgot where the deities were buried. So Krishna not only came to the Pujari in the dream to tell him to set aside the sweet rice for Madhavendra Puri, but later on he came to Madhavendra in a dream and guided him to where his deity form had been buried a couple of decades before in the jungles around Vrindavan. And Madhavendra Puri excavated that deity. He established the Srinathji temple and arranged for the beautiful worship of the deity, which included offering him the kind of sweet rice that had been offered in Ramuna. So Gajendra is saying, Lord, I know that although this is the rule, that you're always in hiding, that you can see us and we can't see you. I'm citing the examples of Dhruva Maharaj. You appeared before him. I'm citing the fact that you break your rules for your devotees, such as you did with in the case of Arjuna and Bhisma. I know you don't normally come out, and I know you see us and we can't see you, but I also know that if someone has genuine, pure devotion, you make an exception, that whatever your standards are, whatever your modus operandus is, however you roll as an individual, whatever your norms are, those can be broken in deference to your devotees. You're famous for having this soft spot for your devotees. Name bhakti pranashati. So Lord, please make an exception in my case. If you think I'm a devotee and you're in my heart and you know, and it's just so sublime how Gajendra is weaving his web and first accusing the Lord and then acknowledging the Lord that's not going to show up and acknowledging that he can't see the Lord. And then he's saying, but you are the Lord of your devotees. You belong to your devotees. You subordinate your own wishes to those wishes of your devotees. You have a soft spot for your devotees. I'm a devotee. So please make an exception for me and appear. What to speak of making an exception for a devotee? The Lord will make an exception for anyone who is connected with the devotee. If anybody has even a tenuous connection to a devotee, the Lord will make an exception. We were talking yesterday about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was invited to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house for a meal. And after a long time and many refusals, finally Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed. Sarvabhauma was so excited. He and his wife cooked so many preparations. And he insisted that Lord Chaitanya try them all. And Lord Chaitanya said, how can I eat so much? And Sarvabhauma said, in your form as Jagannath, you eat 54 offerings a day, so stop pretending. Honor my prasadam. So Lord Chaitanya was eating very nicely, and there were empty pots here and there. And then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's son-in-law, who was an envious person, and whom Sarvabhauma had taken pains to keep him out of the house. When he's hosting Lord Chaitanya, he said, "Don't you come into the house." And he even had servants posted that his son-in-law would not come in the house. But somehow their son-in-law got into the house. And he said, "Look at this. This man calls himself a sannyasi. Sannyasis are supposed to be renounced. They're supposed to eat very little. And look at this man. He's like a glutton." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was so embarrassed. At one and the same time he's saying to the Lord, "Oh Lord, I'm so sorry." And then he took a stick and he chased his son-in-law through the town, the intention of killing him. And then he came back to Lord Chaitanya. He said, "Lord Chaitanya, I'm going to commit suicide because this happened. Imagine I brought you to your house, to my house, to hear this blasphemy while you're enjoying your meal. I'm going to hang myself." Lord Chaitanya Maharaj, he said, "Don't think anything of it." And then that night, I think his name was Gopal, he got leprosy. And Lord Chaitanya then next day said to Sarvabhauma, "So by the way, where's your son-in-law?" And Sarvabhauma said, "He got what he deserved. He got leprosy. He's all disfigured and ugly. He's going to die." And Lord said, "Oh, no, 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 no." And from a remote location, he cured Gopal Chakravarti of leprosy. Sarvabhauma said, "Why did you do that? He came while you were enjoying a meal in the company of your devotees, and he blasphemed you." And Lord Chaitanya said, "I don't take those things very seriously from those who are connected. Neither do I take these things seriously from my devotees, nor do I take them seriously from anyone connected to my devotees." He said, "Because you're my devotee, every member of your household, even your dog is dear to me. What to speak of your son-in-law? So don't take these things very seriously. The Lord is, wherever the devotee is part of the equation, the Lord is never going to get particularly upset." So this has been our 155th segment, revolving around the prayers of Gajendra in the 8th canto. Now we're in the 3rd chapter, 10th verse. And we even have some more comments on this point as well tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday. Thank you, Vaibhavi, for jumping on board. Shali is the proud owneress of a Krishna deity, marble Krishna deity, 3 foot high. This is the type of deity that's worshipped in temples all over the world. Serious thing to have 3 foot marble Krishna deity in your house. So I congratulate you, but I also ask you, worship him with, even if you only do 1 arti a day, do it consistently. And do it with devotion and keep everything very nice and clean, which I'm sure you'll do. Patricia, Haribo. Haribo, Patricia. Patricia donated Oscar, or Scarlet Macaw. Oscar attends the Sunday programs now. I don't know if he did that when you were visiting, but we bring him up, and he's very quiet. He sits there throughout the whole talk on the back of one of the chairs. He must go to the Sunday program. If you don't take him to the Sunday program, man, he lets you know that he's not too happy. So he's a regular fixture now upstairs in the temple room during the talk and during the kirtan. I think he's happy. Okay, here's a high point of our post-talk discussion, one of Brent's poetic efforts here. "You can call 911 and think you are done, but you have to run if the police don't come. But you can never really escape the fear until you begin to chant and hear. You may think that Krishna has left you alone when you try to solve everything on your own, but Krishna is always there to protect as long as you mystically connect. It may appear that he is lost in separation, but he'll find you if your love is unmotivated and without cessation." I think that really captured the essence of what we're saying. You can call 911 and think that you're done, but you'll have to run if the police don't come. But you can never really escape the fear until you begin to chant and hear. You may think that Krishna has left you alone when you try to solve everything on your own, But Krishna is always there to protect as long as you mystically connect. It may appear that he is lost in separation, but he'll find you if your love is unmotivated and without cessation. Nice. Moving down, Vaibhavi says, Madhavendra wanted to taste so as to be able to cook some flavor for his own deity. Yeah, I mentioned that. Okay, thanks very much. It's been Transcendental Tuesday. We'll revisit Gajendra, Dhruva, and great devotees tomorrow morning this time for Wisdom Wednesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.